So how do we now finish everything? You see the model gets already a little bit more complicated and visually with all the surfaces and curves confusing. So let's go to the cap surface and let's try to think about what are the next logical steps to finish this. So at this point I noticed that maybe my helix I created a little bit too long. So maybe either here I could trim it. Sometimes you also see that they insert a flat surface and trim it up. Maybe that's one of the options I might use, or I might just simply leave it. So, however, let's first think about how we're going to work on our cap. So, can maybe go to the EP curve tool and, for example, click here because I know that is one of the lines, and then press the Z key and maybe drag a line down, maybe till there. So I started a line that I know is vertically perfectly lined up at the center part of my kind of like the outer threading, and then maybe I can move it to, let's say, somewhere there, and then with the scale tool I adjust a little bit the height. So let's say like this. Okay, good. Then I could copy, paste, and maybe move it over a little bit to here. So that is also good. And yeah, let's go to an EP curve as well. I go and make use of my grid. It's a little bit coarser, so I have to snap to somewhere there. Alt click and then middle mouse button, drag it out, and then left click and finish on this line. Okay, I actually used the wrong curve tool this time, so I have to go to the CV. So alt click with left mouse button, middle mouse button, drag it out, and then left mouse button so it fits onto this point. That is good. And then I could maybe go into the CV edit mode, select this CV, middle mouse button, move it left and right, and then snap it to this point. So I drag this line out, being somewhat G1 continuity. And with this done, then I could select those 2 points and move it maybe down along the z-axis, and maybe at this point I move in, and you see I'm going to tighten this fillet a little bit. So it's basically like a hand sketched fillet for me. And one curve is missing. Left click and with the control button, and left click with the alt key pressed. And then there basically is our, the major part of our profile. There's only one thing missing here, so maybe I can do this with the CV curve again, left and control click. I move with the right mouse button a point down, middle mouse button, move it to the left, control click and snap it to this point so they're vertically lined up, and then control click, snap to it. So I have a very primitive tangency sketched in here. Okay, so at this point all those surfaces I can actually hide because I really don't need them anymore. And what I'm going to do now, so it's easier for me to see, this surface I'm going to turn into a revolve right now. But first I'm going to set my pivot point to there, and then surface, revolve, let's double click it, everything is correct. The z-axis, click this line, perfect. Okay. Because at this point now I could go ahead and fill, for example, this upper opening of the ring. That is good. And then I'm going to fillet it and making sure all those vectors are correct. That is all good. And to be more accurate, basically this rivet should be shorter or shortened, so we could trim it up. However, for the sake of this tutorial, because we're only putting in kind of like dummy threadings, we just assume that we build it in a good way. So I'm going to cap this bottom part of my lower tube and then go to the fillet tool, first surface, second surface, and adjust the vectors, click build, and there we are. And then basically it is only trimming everything again, and then I can select the rest of those curves, create my revolve surface, and you're done. So here's everything now finished. As you can see, the threading is completely cut out, so it's growing inside the bottle. And now I can go ahead and, for example, use the revolve tool to finish the last missing surfaces. And the side. And if you see this blue line, you can click the center cross. Don't click the top or the bottom one, and you can easily move it left and right. Press the Alt key and snap it to the grid, which then will be the world center. This top one we can cap. Okay. And then the last part up here, our massive cap with way too much material. And because of that, I'm going to select those points and just lower them a little bit because the cap is way too thick there. Maybe like this, okay. And I would like to do the same also for here. And just middle mouse button, move it over, maybe to there. Yeah, that looks better now. Okay. And then let's take a look how everything looks like. Logo, offset, surface symmetry, logo surface, logo filler. Okay, and there we have it. That is now our finished sports gel bottle with really good clean geometry, no modeling issues, and a somewhat detailed cap, just showing you how, for example, a threading could look like. The only thing maybe you could do if you want to just create another line, revolve it, and then blend between. So the top part, for example, is more finished. But you don't have to build like the whole inside surface, because something like that would rather be then done with an engineering software that more precisely creates the surface offsets, or with a rapid prototyping output. Uh, that part of the geometry you actually don't necessarily have to be concerned about.